And here we go with the second part. When we look at the development plans of the Gulf Arab countries and the youth, the issue is, how sustainable the development models that the Gulf countries are following, and how long can the youth continue to be satisfied with the provision of easy, high-paying jobs. Sustainability is a big issue. The cities built over past few decades also seem to ignore the youth and their physical, mental, personal, and professional development. Of great concern in this case is also the speed of urban transformations that turn cities into, and urban areas into complete foreign zones for youth, not only for youth, for their older generations as well. I don't know how many of your parents, for example, living in Doha, could know, certain areas, urban areas in Doha. Even I, who have lived there for only 9 years, find it difficult to know the West Bay area. For example, when I came, there was only a few buildings, but now the area is, completely different, and it's changing by the minute that we're talking now. With large numbers of foreign workers infesting their countries and head-spinning urban development projects, mostly like shopping malls, hotels, touristic projects, and the like, Gulf youth feel more and more alienated, in my opinion. This seemed to be a major issue in countries especially like UAE and Qatar, where the number of foreign expats are high and tourism is one of the biggest, investments of the government. Such fast transformation ignores youth expectations and preferences in not only physically built environment, such as parks, recreation areas, but also how these places are built, with what kind of idea in mind are these places built. These are unfortunately missing in the Gulf countries. Youth is absent from these decisions. Now, we talked about sustainability and urban transport. Sustainability in terms of urban transformation has two dimensions. Number one, how much more can Gulf governments continue to invest in fast urban transformation? Are they going to have enough money for that and enough land for that in some countries? And how much can the Gulf youth bear the current urban transformation, which seems to connect them to the wider world, but which disconnects them from their indigenous culture? They are making them, the fast urban transformation is apparently making them more, connected with the wider global world, but it's disconnecting them from their indigenous culture. And so this makes it a big question in terms of sustainability. Environmental and economic sustainability of current urban transformations, in my opinion, are going to determine how Gulf youth will react to such transformations socially and politically. Now, Gulf cities reflect the divisions between its local populations and that of the immigrants, who is divided into many different racial, religious, and country-specific subdivisions. Indians live in a certain area, Pakistanis live in a different area, and Indians within themselves, like the higher classes or people with better jobs, live in a certain area, and the ones who are laborers, they live in camps, etc. So the Gulf cities reflect all of these divisions, even the religious divisions as well. As a whole, the connection between Gulf societies and their city seems very mechanical and temporary, especially in economically well-off Gulf states. Because the transformation is so head-spinning, the connection between people and a certain place seems to be very temporary, up in the fly, it's not settled down. Citizens and immigrants alike find it hard to catch up with the transformation in their physical environment. And this creates a kind of, physical alienation, physical disorientation. No matter how difficult and unnatural it is, Gulf youth finds new venues to escape, the social pressures and they like to display themselves in this new, fast-changing environment. Like if you go to the Pearl area in Doha, for example, you're gonna see lots of young Qatari men getting in their super luxurious cars and driving and just displaying themselves, a displaying which is one of the most important things in this century in the social media world. Now, this brings us to the identity and urban transformation. In addition to the major issues like we talked about, unemployment, rising cost of living, lack of housing, etc., there seems to be a mismatch, disconnect between youth identity and the identity of the city that they live in. Because in my opinion, cities come with a certain identity. When you say New York, or when you say Berlin, or when you say Barcelona or London, they have, or Paris, for example, they come with a certain identity. But this established identity is not really, visible in the Gulf yet, and it is, very. It seems very temporary. So, like, it creates this disorientation and identity confusion among the youth, in my opinion. Geographical realities and especially recent physical transformations, are important for this. I mean, the geography of the region, the climatic difficulties, are partly to blame for this, but it's also the development plans and urban transformations that are creating this disorientation among the youth and the other people. Gulf youth seems to be confused in this case. They seem to be confused about their identity because in daily life they are, surrounded with a Western environment. They are speaking a Western language, and some of them at least are aspiring to wear, Western clothes. But when they go home or when they go to their farms at the weekend, they are surrounded by their indigenous culture, so they kind of feel this tension between the modern Western and the more traditional Arab way of life. Now, it brings, of course, all of these issues. They have the Gulf city and the youth. There are lots of opportunities. For example, Gulf cities are established on geographically flat areas, and most of the cities are built over the past few decades. Modern buildings, roads, facilities can reflect current needs and trends easily, which cannot be done, for example, in a city like Istanbul. It's all over hillsides. Wherever you want to build something, you're gonna bump into a historical site from the Byzantine Empire or empires from before. So it's not really easily. But in the Gulf, it's flat and there is not much things that are built before, so it's easy, lots of opportunities. If used wisely and supported with appropriate plans, current hydrocarbon revenues can help design, build, and maintain an urban area that is optimal for youth development, recreation, and employment. And by this, I don't mean that the best model is the Dubai model. I still believe that the Dubai development model, outside it's shiny and beautiful, but when you talk to locals, it's not that well received by the local people because they believe is destroying their, indigenous cultures, and it's just making it a Western imitation. In this sense, I think the Gulf cities should value youth participation, political participation in designing, building, maintaining urban areas, and what kind of, recreational areas, social, cultural, physical characteristics they want to reflect in the area they live. Unless Gulf youth is asked and are given an opportunity to give their opinion about how they want it to be, then the cities will become like this soulless physical environments, which is not going to make the youth feel at home. There are also, challenges which I have been mentioning from the beginning of this presentation. The cities, the Gulf cities, do not seem to benefit from the energy of young people. Young people are just left to their own devices. They are just even told to consume, kind of shut up and just, live a good life. But that's not how that's not how a good strong country is established. Youthful energy can be utilized for not only economic sphere, because it's not the only sphere, but in cultural, social, and political arenas as well, because these are what makes human beings. And if you just invest in one part of human being and ignore the other parts, then that's gonna cause problems in the future. In addition, young people's energy can be used for changing how society views cities. What is a city? What does it mean to young people, or the older generations or the younger generations, and how the cities need to be, designed. and how should they reflect the needs, the aspirations of the Gulf societies or Gulf citizens. These are very important issues, and unless there is meaningful political participation, which is partly democracy, I would say, it's not going to happen, and in the future that's going to cause problems. And the biggest challenge is actually overcoming the capitalist corporations, because they have very established interests, strong, deeply established interests with the government and without the government. I think they are a big obstacle in front of the youth and other people to discover themselves as youth, as human beings, and to have this power to change things rather than being just passive consumers. These corporations want the youth to continue basically sleeping and not participate in political life, and be content with whatever is given to them by the government. Youth, another important issue is youth is not only composed of the males, as is thought of in the Gulf, unfortunately. So the governments or the people or if there are any NGOs, they need to be more proactive in terms of closing the gender gap, gender disparity between men and women. And they need to, Gulf women need to be allowed to enjoy their rights as equal citizens. And most of the sociocultural barriers need to be broken, taboos need to be broken, and women need to be a stronger and more active part of Gulf cities. Now, I have been talking about some issues here. We are coming close to the end. This is taken from an article, and issues according to the MENA youth, but this is usually the Levant and the North African youth. As you can see, the issues are rise of Daesh, the threat of terrorism, etc. These are on the top. Although unemployment and cost of living, etc., Palestinian-Israeli conflict, Arab unity, lack of democracy are factoring in these. When we look at the GCC issues, finances and cost of living and societal issues, lack of achievement, concerns for family, work problems, inequality and injustice, and poor health are factoring in as some important issues. So there is a little difference between the two, and I would say in the Gulf, most of the issues are about jobs, unemployment, being happy with job and achievement, etc. So these needs to be taken into account by the people in charge of these countries. In terms of unemployment, as you see here, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar are lower than world average in terms of unemployment. And if you look at here, Oman and Saudi Arabia are having huge problems with overall unemployment rates. And when you look at here youth unemployment, actually Qatar is doing the best, and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain are doing the worst, because most of their youth, which is around 28%, is not having jobs, and that's a cause for concern. When we look at the gender disparity, here Bahrain is doing the best, at least in terms of how male and female are incorporated into the public and private sector. Bahrain is doing the best, and when we look at here, Kuwait and I would say even Qatar and UAE are having huge disparity between these sectors. This is a 2011 figure, and I hope I know that some improvements are made, but they are not enough. In conclusion, now unfortunately this part is also coming close to an end. With the 15 minutes is getting close to an end. I will have 2 more minutes in part 3, and thank you.